this here is a viewer's broken gaming PC. Just kidding, I'm too fat and too bald to be Greg Salazar, so Greg, if you see this, please don't sue me. Actually, this gaming PC was built by John, the Net Guy. He runs the Net Guy Reviews YouTube channel, so check him out if you haven't already. But he built this gaming PC and actually sold it over on Jawa.gg, and the customer started having issues with it, and now it's to a point where it's got a long list of grievances. Hold on one second. A blue screen of death with IRQ and or kernel issues, freezing, will not boot now apparently, and then of course the most egregious of these errors is that the RGB on the AIO is no longer working. So my job, see if I can save this build and fix it and figure out what's going on. So we're going to do that, but before we do, if you don't want to be in this situation where you have to troubleshoot your own stuff, hire a YouTuber to build your PC, or these guys.
What's the matter there? Did you miss all the Black Friday sales at PCBros.tech and now you don't have any money to buy a gaming PC? Well, don't worry, PCBros.tech has your back with $100 off their professional streamer PC featuring a Ryzen 5 7600 and an RX 6700 XT. But wait, there's more. You can also get 5% off store-wide using the code PinkyTech4. That's right, use PinkyTech4 to get 5% off because these guys are great at making PCs, but not so much at marketing. They even have 25% off all merch. Just add it to the cart. Trust me, bro. 25% off. You got it. So visit PCBros.tech today and don't miss out on these deals the second time. Now back to the show.
Alright guys, and first things first, before you do anything with the build, trust but verify. So I'm going to go ahead and take this thing apart just to get the cords and stuff like that out of here. And then before I remove any hardware or do anything like that, we're going to actually try to boot it, see what it does, and see if we can figure out what's happening and just verify that the things that the user were saying were an issue are actually still happening now. So let's go. Alright, and through the magic of editing here, we have everything hooked up. I'm going to get rid of this bag. But now that everything is hooked up, what we want to do first is go ahead and power it on, see what's happening for ourselves, and see if it makes any difference of us hitting the power button versus somebody else. So, and keep in mind, this has now been shipped twice, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so I can hear the AIO. And I can see the spinning lights on the graphics card. And let's wait and see if we get a post here. Alright, we got a post. And we also have a cat here. Alright, and your device didn't shut down properly. Alright, so now we're got a blue screen of death here, but we do have a post, which is good. That means the hardware is at least seeing stuff. So, alright. And I can't read upside down. Alright, so we're going to try to just restart it. And let's see what it does. Now, I did not check with John to see if I was allowed to just reinstall Windows on this drive or not, or if it was actually in use. So, may have to do that here soon. But let's check and see. Let's see what happens first. And hopefully this guy doesn't have any images I'm going to have to blur out for not getting copyright strike purposes. Alright, yeah, so there's definitely something wrong, at least with the Windows install. Could be still a driver or dead hardware component, but we'll check that in a moment here. So I think what I'm going to do now is just go into it and see if it'll actually boot into safe mode, which if it does, it probably means the hardware is okay, and we're looking at a Windows driver issue. But let's take a look here. And we're just going to do 4 here to enable safe mode. and no dice. All right, so I think from now, let's try to get into the BIOS and see what kind of hardware we're working with here and see if we see anything that's standing out. So, all right, so here we are in the BIOS, and we can see we've got an i5 12600K. It's running at 4500 megahertz, and we've got 32 gigs of DDR5 running at 4800 megahertz, and that is a Team Group kit. XMP is currently disabled, which was on purpose. They were trying to troubleshoot, see if that was the issue. And then the rapid storage technology, I'm not sure if that's on or off, but I know that's caused issues with booting into Windows before. So I am going to set that to off. And the other thing I wanted to check and see is, one, did it see the M.2 slots, which it looks like it is. It's seeing a 2 terabyte drive there, and then also making sure that secure boot was on, because that's pretty much needed for most modern hardware at this point. So we are at standard, it's in UEFI mode, so I think we're good there. So we're gonna save these changes and then exit and see what happens here. All right, so as you can see here, still not working, which once again, not totally surprised. All we did was replace the RAM basically at this point, which had already been done, so we put it back. It's still not booting. I'm not gonna lie, this kind of feels to me like it could be a software issue. So before we go any further, I'm actually gonna go ahead and just get a spare NVMe drive that I have, and I'm gonna try to just replace Windows on that. That way I don't have to totally nuke this guy's data, and see if we can get that to work. If that works, that tells us we either have a bad install or potentially a bad NVMe drive, but I also have a caddy, so I can check the drive itself and see if it's working or if it's got a boot record on it, some of that stuff. So let me go ahead and replace that. Luckily, the NVMe drive is actually on the back of this motherboard, so I don't have to worry about actually going through and ripping everything apart. So I think that's the next best step. Let's do that. It actually does have an install on it, which I think might be an AMD install, but if I can get it to boot, we can always reinstall Windows, fix drivers later, but that is at least going to tell us what may be going on here. So let me try that, and we'll see if that helps any. Two fingers. What? It's apple juice. Why am I drinking apple juice, you said? This fine apple juice, aged in port wine barrels? Well, it's pretty simple. Let me get you caught up on my week. Alright, so we fixed the ARGB by plugging in the cable because it got knocked loose during that. I reinstalled Windows on this after it looked like all the hardware was fine. Got new drivers installed, got it on a test NVMe drive, and everything was looking good. Installed the GPU drivers, installed the chipset drivers, and all the other drivers, and at that point I thought we were good. But we weren't. No, that's when the real fun started. So I first started out with the Corsair Vengeance RAM and was able to actually get it to pass MemTest 86, which was good, but then it failed all the stability tests, and I thought, well, that's weird. Tried it with XMP off, XMP on, same results. It would fail one, pass the other, pass one, fail the other. So I thought, hey, got this nice little kit of T-Force Delta from Team Group. Let's try it out. Besides, it's faster memory. That didn't work either. Went through all the same stuff. Worked on some, worked on others. Basically, no matter what kit of RAM I used, I couldn't get a good stability test on it. So then I went down the rabbit hole of checking motherboard compatibility, and both kits are on the QVL list. Timings, manufacturer, SKUs, all on the QVL list. So further down the rabbit hole we went, and we started looking at motherboard compatibility, and motherboard compatibility was good, except for I kept seeing stuff on there where there was funny power delivery issues and instability issues with the particular Asus ROG Strix board. And so I thought, hey, all right, probably need to undervolt it. And so I set it to the 1.25 volts, which is what the RAM kits are both rated for. And once again, pass a memory test, fail a memory test, XMP on, XMP off. Just really couldn't get any kind of stability out of the system. And so that's been my off and on for the last 3 days. And finally, I reached out to John, and John said, hey, where are you going to replace the motherboard? And I said, the motherboard's not here. And he said, oh, well, I'll just send you a new one. And he did, because apparently the net guy is actually ancient Egyptian for has tons of money. I didn't know that. I had to look it up. But now we've got a new Asus Aorus Pro board. So I'm going to test this one out because of basically what I found research-wise was people have had a lot of stability issues with this board, and they just got rid of it instead of actually trying to fix it. And I'm going to do that too. But then also the replacement board, which is the same motherboard for this one, came in. And John, suck it. I'm not messing with this board. You can do it yourself. I'm sorry. Was that... It's the apple juice talking. It's the apple juice talking, man. Sweet, sweet, port age barrel, refined apple juice. So anyway, yeah, so now I've got to do what I didn't want to do, and that is I have to completely tear this build apart with all the nice cable management and routing and zip ties and everything else. And so I'm going to tear that apart. I'm going to actually put this motherboard to use, which is the Aorus B760i Pro gaming motherboard, because it has to be gaming nowadays, right? So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to be a bit smarter with it, and I'm actually going to put this together outside of the case and run all my testing again. So I'm going to go ahead and tear this down, get this one built, set up kind of a quasi little bench area for it, and then start the memory test, start the stability test, all that good stuff. If I can get everything to pass, then we'll put it back together. We'll rerun the test just to make sure, and we'll kind of go from there. But apple juice.
And after everything's been put back together here, a bit of good news. I was able to run memory test and was actually able to get it to pass. And so I then turned XMP on and was able to get it to pass again. And then moved into installing Windows and the drivers and running the IDA64 stress test. And I was able to actually run the stress test for over 4 hours and was able to get it to pass. So at this point, the only thing left to do was go ahead and reassemble the computer, which I did, which was a pain, by the way. And then, of course, get her cleaned up and ready to ship out to the owner. So if you enjoyed this whole process, make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to this video, or subscribe to the YouTube channel, not to the video. Like the video. You know what I mean. It's YouTube. You've figured it out by now. As always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks.